Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, get ready to explore a story that bends the very fabric of time and history. We're going deep into excerpts from a 2007 Portuguese novel, O Vídeo do Mártir. That's the Martyr's Video, for those of us who aren't fluent.
What's so captivating about this novel is that it takes a historical mystery and injects it with a dose of sci-fi intrigue, raising questions about time travel and what it might mean for our understanding of the past and ourselves.
So picture this. We're in the small Brazilian town of Formiga, and our main character, Antonio Lima, is an archaeologist. Not just any archaeologist, though he's deeply passionate about preserving Formiga's history. Have you ever felt that pull towards a certain place or time period? It might be worth exploring. You never know what connections you might uncover.
And speaking of uncovering connections, Antonio finds himself at the heart of a mystery. When the old Igreja do Rosario, the Church of the Rosary, is slated for demolition to make way for, you guessed it, a new development. Of course, Antonio insists on meticulously documenting the entire process.
Now, you might be thinking, okay, meticulous archaeologist, that's not exactly Indiana Jones material. But trust me, this is where things take a turn for the unbelievable. During the demolition, a hidden chamber is revealed beneath the church. A secret space nobody even knew existed.
Not only was this chamber hidden, but it was filled with gold, enough to make anyone's eyes widen. But the real treasure lay in a coffin tucked away in this secret space.
Inside the coffin, they find a skeleton. Two mysterious pouches, one small, one large, and hidden underneath the skull. Another skull. Intrigued yet?
I think we'd all be intrigued, and Antonio, being who he is, can't resist investigating further. Later that night, he takes the larger pouch and the additional skull, leaving the smaller pouch behind. He's clearly got a sense of preservation, maybe a little bit of rule bending, too.
Maybe he thought he'd leave some of the mystery for someone else to discover. But when he finally gets a chance to examine that smaller pouch, what he finds inside is not just an artifact. It's an anomaly.
He finds an 8mm video cartridge, the kind designed to hold a digital disc branded with the logo of the defunct German company Telefunken. Except, here's a catch, this kind of digital cartridge wouldn't even exist for a few more years. It's supposed to be released in 2010, but this cartridge is found in a church that's potentially centuries old.
Wait, a digital video cartridge in a centuries-old church? How is that even possible? Either we've got a master prankster on our hands, or we're dealing with something that completely rewrites our understanding of time.
Antonio probably wished it was a prankster. The situation escalates quickly when American agents, for reasons unknown, break into his home and take the cartridge. Now, most people might back off at this point, but not Antonio. He and his scientist friend, Ernane, managed to run carbon dating tests on a piece of the cartridge casing. The results are undeniable. It's from the 18th century.
Okay, so now we're officially in mind-boggling territory.
Yeah.
And where does the trail of this impossible artifact lead? All the way to the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, JPL, a top-secret NASA facility in Pasadena, California.
And we're not talking just any department at JPL. This is a division rumored to have ties to Area 51. The place whispered to hold secrets of extraterrestrial technology. This is where the story takes a definite turn toward science fiction.
You can imagine how intrigued Antonio must have been. He manages to talk his way into a secret meeting at JPL where they're going to play the video for the first time. What they see is grainy footage of 18th century Brazil. But amidst the historical scenes, a figure emerges that sends chills down their spines. A man who appears to be Tiradentes.
Now, before we go any further, let's talk about Tiradentes. He was a pivotal figure in Brazilian history, a revolutionary who led a rebellion against Portuguese rule. Think of him as a Brazilian George Washington or Simón Bolívar. He fought for freedom and ultimately paid the ultimate price for his beliefs.
In the video, we see Tiradentes speaking directly to the camera as though he knows he's being recorded for future generations. He talks about the struggle for independence, the injustices faced by the Brazilian people, and his determination to fight for a better future. You can feel his passion, his conviction, even through this grainy footage.
It's a powerful moment, but the video doesn't stop there. It goes on to show Tiradentes' imprisonment, his sentencing, and ultimately his execution by hanging in 1792. And to make matters worse, the Portuguese authorities dismembered his body after his death, displaying the parts as a gruesome warning to anyone else daring to rebel.
It's a brutal scene, difficult to watch even now. But then the video takes another unexpected turn. It shows someone retrieving Tiradentes' head from where it was on display. And if you remember that extra skull that was found in the coffin, well, it's starting to look like it might belong to Tiradentes.
The video follows this mysterious figure as they travel to Formiga and give Tiradentes' head to a priest for a proper, respectful burial. And finally, at this point in the video, the audio returns, and we hear the traveler's voice, weak and fading.
What he says next is the bombshell that throws everything we thought we knew into question. He reveals that he's from the future, sent back as part of a project. But now he's dying from an illness he picked up during his journey through time. He believes he's nearing the end.
Now, you might be thinking, hold on, is this where we go full Back to the Future? But this isn't about wacky inventions or accidental time travel. There's a sense of purpose here, a mission, and we're left wondering what project would send someone back to 18th century Brazil. And how did they even manage to achieve time travel?
We're on the edge of our seats, waiting for answers, but then the video cuts off abruptly. Antonio and scientists at JPL are frustrated. They need more information, especially about the technology that made this journey through time possible.
But here's where it gets really intriguing. Dirchfort, the head of the project at JPL, pulls Antonio aside for a private meeting. He drops a bombshell. They knew the person who would find the video all along, and they've been searching for him.
Wait a minute, they planted this video in the past, knowing someone in the present would find it? But why go through all this trouble? And who is this mysterious time traveler?
That's the million-dollar question, Dirt, and Dirchfort has the answer. He plays the final moments of the video, where the traveler speaks in a voice eerily similar to Antonio's. The traveler even mentions an incident from his childhood. He broke his leg and needed a platinum plate to fix it.
And I bet you can guess what kind of surgery Antonio had as a child.
You got it. The jaw-dropping reveal is that Antonio Lima, the archaeologist standing there in JPL, is the time traveler.
Whoa. Talk about an identity crisis.
Yeah.
We're going to need a minute to wrap our heads around this.
Yeah.
If you were in Antonio's shoes, would you even believe it? This is one of those moments where reality seems to crack open and you're left staring into the abyss of the unknown.
It really is a head-spinner, isn't it? Antonio, standing there in the present, is confronted with the reality that he's lived another life, one that he has no conscious memory of, a life where he traveled back in time, interacted with a legendary figure like Tiradentes, and potentially faced his own demise. It challenges everything we think we know about time, identity, and the very nature of reality.
It's like one of those movies where the main character discovers they have a secret past, a hidden life that suddenly comes crashing into their present. But this isn't Hollywood. This is a story that makes us question the boundaries of what's possible.
And what's fascinating is that if we revisit the beginning of the novel, there are subtle hints, almost like breadcrumbs, that point toward Antonio's destiny. For example, his deep passion for history, particularly the history of Formiga. It's as though some subconscious force was drawing him towards his hidden past.
It's like he was being pulled by an invisible thread, guided towards this moment of revelation. And remember the vivid dream he had the night before he retrieved the pouch from the church?
Oh, absolutely. That dream where he felt a rope tighten around his neck, then the jarring blow of an axe to the back of his head. Those weren't just random images. They were echoes of Tiradentes' execution, leading through from Antonio's future self, his forgotten past.
Now that's just chilling. To think that his subconscious was trying to warn him, or maybe prepare him, for the ordeal he'd already experienced. It's like those stories of people having premonitions, dreams that foreshadow real events. It makes you wonder if our minds have a way of tapping into something beyond our conscious awareness, some knowledge of things to come.
And it's not just the dream. Remember those details about the skeleton in the coffin? The injuries, the platinum plate used to repair the broken leg, incredibly advanced for the 18th century, and the skull itself, showing signs of unusual dental work. It all aligns perfectly with Antonio.
So we've got this mounting evidence pointing towards Antonio as the time traveler. But the big question remains, if he's the traveler in the video, the one we see, or at least hear succumbing to illness in the past, how on earth is he standing here in the present? Did his death somehow get erased from the timeline? Is that even possible?
Right. It's the paradox at the heart of this story. Did something occur that altered the timeline, allowing him to escape his fate in the past? Or are we venturing into the realm of multiple timelines, parallel universes where different versions of events play out simultaneously?
Okay, hold on. Are we talking full-on sci-fi here? Multiple timelines, alternate realities. Is any of that remotely plausible?
Well, this is where fiction and science intertwine in a fascinating way. While the story is a work of imagination, it draws upon some real scientific concepts and theories that have captivated physicists and philosophers for decades. One idea that comes to mind is the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics.
Okay, break that down for me. Quantum mechanics. We're getting deep into the theoretical weeds here.
Imagine it this way. Every time a choice is made, every time a possibility presents itself, the universe splits, creating a new branch of reality where a different outcome unfolds. So in one universe, Antonio might succumb to his illness in 1792, but in another, he survives, perhaps even finds a way to return to his original time.
So we're talking about a universe where every possible outcome exists simultaneously, branching out into infinite possibilities. It's like choosing different paths in a video game, each choice leading to a different ending. But instead of a video game, it's our reality, fracturing and multiplying with every decision we make.
Exactly. It's a mind-boggling concept, but it offers a way to reconcile the seemingly impossible situation Antonio finds himself in. He could be both dead and alive, existing in different branches of reality. And then there's the classic grandfather paradox, which tackles the inherent logical contradictions of time travel.
The grandfather paradox. I've heard of that one. It's the one where you go back in time and accidentally kill your grandfather, right?
Yeah.
But if you kill your grandfather, you'd never be born to go back in time in the first place.
Precisely. It creates a mind-bending loop that challenges our understanding of cause and effect. If you were to prevent your own birth by changing the past, how could you still exist to have made that change? It's a puzzle that has led some to believe that time travel, at least to the past, might be inherently impossible. But in Antonio's case, it seems he's not trying to alter history. He's seemingly playing a predetermined role.
That's right. He's not going back to stop World War II or win the lottery. He's going back and seemingly fulfilling a destiny that's already been laid out for him. But that raises another question. If he's meant to become this time traveler, does he have any free will? Or is his entire life, every choice he makes, leading him inevitably to that moment in the church crypt?
Now you're getting to the heart of the philosophical debate that often accompanies discussions of time travel. Free will versus determinism. Is our future predetermined, or do we have the power to shape our own destiny?
This is giving me a serious existential crisis. If our lives are just playing out according to some cosmic script, what does that say about our choices, our actions?
It's a question that has perplexed philosophers for centuries. Do we truly have control over our lives, or are we merely actors following a pre-written script? In Antonio's case, it seems his path was set, even if he was unaware of it. But what if he had known his future? Would he have tried to change it, defy fate, or would that knowledge have made the outcome unavoidable? A self-fulfilling prophecy.
Okay, I need to take a deep breath. This is heavy stuff. But it's also incredibly fascinating. This story, though fictional, forces us to confront these profound questions about time, identity, and free will. It makes you wonder, are there events in our own lives that we think are random, choices we believe are our own, that are actually part of a larger plan, a cosmic script we're unknowingly following?
It's a thought-provoking concept, isn't it? The idea that we might be living out a story that's already been written, a destiny we're unknowingly fulfilling. But even if that's the case, perhaps the journey is more important than the destination.
Okay, so we've established that this story is throwing some serious curveballs our way. We're left with this massive revelation. Antonio was the time traveler. But we're still missing some critical pieces of the puzzle. How did he travel back to the 18th century in the first place? What was the purpose of this mission? And the biggest question of all, if we heard him, or at least a version of him, dying at the end of that video, how is he alive in the present day?
It's like we've reached the climax of a movie, but the projector suddenly burns out, leaving us with a cliffhanger ending and a whole lot of unanswered questions.
Exactly. And the frustrating part is, it feels like we're so close to the truth, but those final pieces of the puzzle are just out of reach. It's like finding a treasure chest, only to discover it's locked and the key is missing.
You know, some might argue that the author intentionally left us hanging, wanting us to grapple with the mystery, to come up with our own theories and interpretations.
I get that, the whole open to interpretation approach.
Yeah.
But doesn't that feel a bit like a cop-out? I mean, a good deep dive should offer some resolution, right? We've gone through all this mind-bending analysis, and now we're just left dangling.
Fair point. But even without a definitive answer, we can still explore some possibilities, try to piece together a plausible explanation based on the clues we do have. Maybe the illness that Antonio contracted in the 18th century wasn't fatal after all. Perhaps he recovered somehow and eventually found a way to return to his own time.
But the video made it seem pretty dire. He sounded like he was at death's door. If he did survive, how did he pull off a miraculous recovery? in a time before antibiotics and modern medicine? And how did he travel back to the future?
You're right to be skeptical. Remember, we only heard fragments of his final message. There could be a whole section of that video that's missing, a section that explains how he managed to survive, or even how he journeyed back to his own time.
Okay, I'll grant you that.
Yeah.
But what about the fact that he doesn't remember any of this in the present day? If he went through this incredible ordeal, you'd think it would leave some kind of mark on his memory.
Now that's where things get really interesting. Perhaps the time travel process itself affected his memory. What if it's a built-in safety mechanism? A side effect of whatever technology they used to send him back? A way to protect the timeline from being disrupted by too much knowledge?
So he's walking around living his life, completely oblivious to this incredible adventure he's already experienced. A life where he interacted with a legendary historical figure, potentially saved his head from being displayed on a pike, and might have even died and come back to life. That's a pretty big chunk of his life to just forget.
It is a pretty wild concept, isn't it? To have this hidden past, this secret identity, that's completely unknown to your present self. Imagine if we all had a time-traveling doppelganger out there, living a parallel life in another era. What kind of impact would that have on our perception of ourselves, our place in the grand scheme of things?
It would definitely make you question everything. What if we're all just fragments of a larger, multidimensional self, scattered across time and space?
Who knows? Maybe somewhere deep in Antonio's subconscious, those memories are still lurking, waiting to be triggered. Maybe one day he'll have a sudden flash of recognition, a feeling of déjà vu, and it'll all come rushing back.
Can you imagine going about your day, and suddenly you remember that you were the one who rescued Tiradentes' head from being paraded around on a pike? Talk about a mind-blowing revelation. It would completely upend his sense of reality.
Absolutely, and it would add another layer to the mystery. If Antonio regains his memories, what would he do with that knowledge? Would he try to change anything? Would he seek out more information about this Telfunken project that sent him back in time?
And what about the implications for time travel research in the present day? If they cracked the code back in the early 2000s, as this story suggests, why haven't we heard about it? Is the government covering it up? Are there secret time travelers walking among us right now, their memories wiped clean?
These are the questions that linger long after the story ends. It's a testament to the power of a good narrative, to spark our imaginations, make us think about the boundaries of possibility, and leave us hungry for more.
Well, I think it's safe to say we've been thoroughly mind-boggled by this deep dive. We may not have all the answers, but we've certainly been given a lot to ponder. It's a story that challenges our assumptions about time, identity, and the very nature of reality. And who knows, maybe one day time travel will become a reality, and we'll be able to unravel these mysteries for ourselves.
Until then, we'll have to keep exploring these stories, keep asking the big questions, and keep diving deep into the unknown.
Thanks for joining us on this incredible journey. We'll see you next time for another deep dive into the mysteries of the universe.